So good morning, everybody, and I'd like just to say thanks very much to Warren and the B-Sides Belfast crew for having me here today to give your opening keynote. It is an honour to be given a keynote because the pressure is on you to sort of set the tone for the day. So I will apologise straight away to Warren and the rest of the crew for how the day is going to end up. But so I want to talk to you about. Now, giving a keynote is kind of strange. When you give talks at conferences, and especially at a tech conference that's very focused like B-Sides are, you can talk about technology or hacking or some fantastic red teaming or whatever else you did. But giving a keynote is kind of setting the tone for stuff. So, as you can see, I'm still very young-ish. I've been in cybersecurity since cyber was a dirty word. I started my career back in the 1980s. And I've titled this Back to the Future, because I want to talk about some of the stuff that we look at. And when I was trying to figure out what we're going to talk about today, well, Halloween was obviously a theme. I could just talk about scary 0 days and all that sort of stuff. And I says, no, we could talk about Brexit, but I think, especially today was meant to be the day. But obviously that's something I'm sure we're all sick of hearing about Brexit. Cybersecurity Month. So tomorrow we can all go back again and not being aware of security anymore. Brilliant. But there are key things. But actually what really struck me when I started looking at this sort of stuff is happy 50th birthday to the internet. October 50 years ago, 2 days ago, 29th of October 1969, the first message was sent over DARPANet. That's what the internet looked like 50 years ago. So what? Four points on it. This is probably a more realistic picture of what it looks like today. We're all connected in many, many different ways. With that connectivity and that dependency we now have on the internet, there are much more risks, though, that we have to look at. And if you look at the World Economic Forum, their Global Risk Report, which they issue each year after their meetings in Davos in Switzerland, you would see that cybersecurity is the number 3 top likelihood in risk in terms of likelihood against the global economy. So right there behind extreme weather events, natural disasters and cyber attacks are the top three risks to the world economy at the moment. And the impact on the right there is that number 6 is cyber attacks. If a global cyber attack is to hit the world economy, the impact will be the 6th most severe that could happen to our economy. So that kind of sends a message to us all that these computers we play around with and hack with, they actually do play a significant role in our daily lives. How we do things change from business to everything else, to communications, to warfare, is all changing in how we do it. We're all very aware our own economies and our democracies have been under attack from cybersecurity internet. The Cambridge Analytica scandal with regards to Facebook and how people's votes were influenced during Brexit and also during the US elections. And now with the UK elections coming up in December, you can be guaranteed there's going to be more influence in there as well. So, this is some serious stuff. But when we talk about cyber attacks, and I know there's going to be lots of talks today, very interesting talks, very technical talks, about very complicated attacks. But if you actually look in the real world at all the different attacks that we've had, and a great source to look at that is the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report. Hands up, people who are familiar with the Verizon Data DBIR. Those of you who aren't, I would strongly encourage you to go to Verizon's website and download their report. They take data from many different sources, from their own customers about cyber attacks they've had, but also from the likes of Europol, the FBI, US Secret Service, the Australian Federal Police, Symantec, McAfee, all the big security companies, search around the world. They take that data, they analyze it, and they produce this report in nice, easy ways that you can digest it to figure out what goes on. So you can see the majority of attacks happen from outsiders. Majority of attacks are financially motivated, which means criminals are now getting more and more involved in cybercrime. It's no longer hackers playing around the internet, taking down websites, defacing websites. We all know that, but this is evidence to show that things are changing. And if you look at all that data and you try and extrapolate that and look into the future, we go, well, what are the future attacks going to be like? What is going to happen in the future? And I just have to say, it's going to be more of the same. As I said, I started off working in IT security in the 1980s, and computer viruses were the biggest risk we had then. Computer viruses are still the biggest risk we have. Which is just called ransomware now because it sounds different, but it's more the same. And if you take Europol's, the Inter-Organized Crime Threat Assessment, again, another very good report for you to download and read and see what trends are happening in cybersecurity. Here's one of the key things. The major threats we face today, such as ransomware or business email compromise, have been around for years. My dad is 83. He does not understand what I do. He keeps asking me, Brian, what does your job do? So I actually sat down, I think it's about a month ago, and said, look, Dad, we try and make people's computers more secure. I said, people get these letters asking them to, from a Nigerian prince to send, can they take $20 million into your bank account and then you keep 10% and ship it on? Or they send an email saying, you need to pay this invoice really, really quickly. And it turns out that it's a criminal trying to fool the company into paying the invoice. And my dad goes, really? And I says, yeah, I actually thought I had him. And he goes, when I worked in the 1970s, we got those things on the telex and the fax machines. So criminals are going to use the same techniques they have used all along because they work. They're just going to transfer them into the cyber world. And the biggest threats we face and the biggest risk to all of our businesses are the common run-of-the-day, run-the-mill cybersecurity attacks. Criminals will continue refining attacks that have been known to work. And the last one, even relatively unsophisticated frauds that leverage social engineering for great monetary gain. So criminals are not going to be using 0 days. They're not going to be using the latest hacks. They're going to use email and the phone to break into a lot of companies. And if you look at many, using the data from Verizon and Okta, and even from the CERT that I run in Ireland, we get about 30,000 incidents per year. The majority of the incidents all come down to this. It's poor passwords, it's missing patches, vulnerabilities, old outdated web platforms, Cold Fusion, WordPress not being updated, etc. Out-of-date antivirus software, and lack of monitoring. The Verizon Data Breach Report will say that on average, most companies will not detect they've been breached until months after the breach has happened. So that's like having a burglar alarm on your house and you're not hearing it going off until 6 weeks after the burglar has been in and triggered the alarm off. So that is the root causes. Well, there is a very, very famous saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And we are developing new technologies. We have, the Internet of Things, industrial control systems. We're all trying to bring everything online, but we're repeating the same mistakes we made over and over again. And we don't learn. This is Martin Rosler. He's the Senior Director of Threat Research at Trend Micro. And I remember a few years ago in Barcelona conference, we were chatting away about this. And Martin said this to me, and it has stuck with me since. We don't learn properly in cybersecurity. When a breach happens, this is the reaction most of us have. I can't believe it. They got hacked. My God, they're so bad. Their security sucks. How could they have got hacked? Now, hands up here, anybody who has to patch 10,000 computers every month. Hands up here who has to patch one computer every month. Whose job is easier? Yeah, so it's all very well and good for to say, yeah, you should be patching stuff, but when you have to patch 10,000 computers with dependencies, it takes a lot of time. I'm not trying to give people get off the hook quite lightly, but we do have to get away from this victim blaming. People who are hacked are victims. I walk out of here and I get mugged out in the street. I should not be blamed for being mugged. The criminal who mugs me should be the one who's been blamed. Companies that get hacked should not be blamed for being hacked. They are victims of a crime. And The criminals who commit the crime should be. Now, yes, we can say, Brian, you walked out the street with your wallet hanging out of your back pocket, your iPhone in your hand, and you weren't paying any attention. No wonder you got mugged. But still, I'm a victim. Company are a victim. We should stop the victim blaming and get away from it. Because what happens is, this is how we learn in cybersecurity. We become too afraid. This is how we teach people to develop and make things secure. It's by books, it's by courses. You didn't learn to ride your bicycle reading a book. You learn to ride your bicycle by falling off it. I'm not doing that silly thing again. That's how we need to learn, and we need to get those lessons back in again. Because we are too dependent. Everything we rely on needs to be made more secure. This is our future. We are going to be looking at all these things. If we keep making the same mistakes, we're going to have a very insecure future ahead. Our economy is going to be insecure. Our society is going to be insecure. Our democracy is going to be insecure. So we need to take the responsibility and learn and improve things ourselves. So that got me thinking, well, how can we and where can we learn from? So, interestingly enough, October, I'm so glad you guys had B-Sides Belfast in October, because this talk would be so much worse if it wasn't. But October, 100 years ago, KLM, celebrating 100 years. So well done, KLM. That led me to think about the airline industry. Like 100 years ago, if you look at the air accident fatalities over the past 100 years, you can see in the 1920s not so many air fatalities. Well, do you know why? That's because there weren't so many airplanes. And there's a nice spike there in the 1940s. I don't know what happened around then to cause lots of people to die in airplanes. But on a more serious note, if you take this past 50 years from the 1970s, so fatal aviation accidents per million consumer flights, so 6 per million, so that the one there in 1970, that there were 6 people per million flights died. So that's how many the fatal aviation. Right down to last year, 2017, you can see how low it's gone there. Now last year, okay, it spiked again because Boeing and the 737 MAX, but overall, it's a very downward curve, slope. We need to get that into cybersecurity. We're probably up where the 1970s are right now. We need to start learning and improving how we do that. Because when you look at that, everything that we have is insecure. The internet was never designed to be secure. It was never the software we have is not secure out of the box. I don't care what software you're talking about, Windows, Macintosh, Linux, they're all insecure. The hardware we rely on is insecure. Look at all the vulnerabilities that we found in Intel chips nowadays. So you can harden your operating system as much as you want, but the chips that you rely on are just as insecure as well. So everything in airplanes have to be spec'd. You can't go out onto eBay and buy a jet engine for your plane and put it on your airplane. You have to buy from specific manufacturers to very specific criteria to allow that to be to set up your airplane. Oops. Everything has to be maintained properly as well. That's one thing that we kind of fall flat on a lot of places in IT, is we don't do good ops management or change control or looking after our systems. Airliners have to be maintained on a regular basis to exact specifications as well. And testing. Testing your application is not running a pen test once it's gone live, or launching a bug bounty program once it's gone live. You need to have security built in right from the very, very beginning to ensure security all along the way. That, by the way, is they're given the airplane water ingestion testing to see how it can withstand water going into the engines, etc. I think it's a cool picture. But there's also international agreements. You hijack an airplane, it's an international crime, you're going to be done for it. We don't have the same level of international agreements for law enforcement or international cooperation against cybercrime. If I commit a crime here in Belfast against a website in Russia and use that Russian website to hack a website in the US, that's 3 jurisdictions that have to get involved. And many of them aren't, that's going to take a long time. We need better international agreements to sort that out. We need better training. You can't just jump into an airplane and fly it. You have to go through specific training that's very strict and very rigorous, and you have to get to the end. And once you do qualify, you still have to follow rigorous procedures. Every flight has to go through a pre-check flight, the same one all the time to make sure it will work. We don't do that in IT. We launch systems on the internet and we say, oh, it'll work, don't worry. We fix that problem in the next release. Yeah, you can't fix your problem in the next release when you're 30,000 feet in the air. And the passengers are taught how to survive-ish. When doing research for this, I actually discovered, I always ask myself, if I'm flying from here to Germany, why do they have a life vest underneath the chair? Because I'm going to crash land on ground. And I was told, life vests aren't there to save your life. They're actually there so they can find the bodies easier. So that's a cheerful note for you on Halloween. And we have air traffic control. We have international cooperation. People work together to make flights safer, etc. And then there's regular checks, regular updates, make sure the thing works, make sure every time a plane lands, it is checked to make sure that it's going to be safe. And then security, we make sure anything we put on it is relatively secure. I know we all hate these scanners, but they do serve a purpose. The amount of hijacks, etc., have fallen dramatically from the 1970s and 1980s. And then when things do go wrong, you have air investigation accidents come in, investigators, and they will investigate the accident, and they will publish their findings, warts and all. We don't do that in cybersecurity. A company gets hacked. We don't know. The one that always strikes me is, anybody remember the Equifax hack? So if you read the report, you will see that they said, yes, we had our vulnerability scanner scan the system, but it never detected that the system, that the patch was missing. I would love to know either A, what that vulnerability management software was, because am I or one of my customers using that? Or B, was it an error on behalf of somebody who's using that tool? But we don't have that data, so therefore we're not learning, therefore somebody else is going to have the same problem down the road, and they're going to become a victim as well. So we need to move away from being the old way. We need to move to something new. First of all, I think we need to stop the FUD. Everyone knows what the FUD is? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We love it. We love being the scary man in the corner, or the scary person in the corner going, oh, booga, 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 cybersecurity, if you don't patch your systems, you're going to be hacked. I say to my team, every time you discover a vulnerability or a security issue with a client, ask the question, so what? So they've got Heartbleed on their website. So what? What does it really mean? And keep asking that question to figure out what the impact is. Because you can't go running to everybody going, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. We need to get away from it. We need politicians, we need vendors to stop putting lies on the side of buses. Yeah. We need to stop focusing on the APTs and the 0 days. We need to make sure that we focus on the stuff that really is going to cause somebody to get hacked. Is not an APT, as I said earlier on. It's going to be somebody's password. So spend time enabling multi-factor authentication instead of trying to worry about the late 0 day. But with all that said, one thing I don't want to kill here is the passion that we all have for the jobs that we do. Like, there's great energy in this room, and even last night speaking to people from the Talos team and stuff, even when they're on their downtime, we're all talking about cybersecurity, how to make it better. So we have a passion, and that passion has brought you here today to give up a day of your own time or take time off work or whatever to be here. That is passion that we need, and we need to nurture and keep it going. But we need to direct that passion much better. While the internet is 50 years old, cybersecurity, we're probably still in our late teens, and we're still that stroppy teenager that we need to grow out of being the stroppy teenager. Because one thing we need to look at as well is what is a cybersecurity professional? If I want to get a plumber, I have to get somebody who's licensed. If I have to get an electrician, I have to get somebody who's licensed. If I get my dad to wire my house, I break, well, at least in the Republic of Ireland, I end up breaking the law. I can't sell my house if it's not certified. And to get it certified, I need a qualified plumber or an engineer. IT, anybody can just rock up and say, yeah, I'm a pro, I'm an expert, you know? So we need to professionalize the industry. So those of you who don't know, this is Javad Malik, and he has a very famous video about CISP. And that's his flashing his CISP card. Now, I'm not advocating everybody join ISC squared. What I am saying, though, is we need to professionalize our industry. We need to have accountability. That if you or me or anybody else screws up, we are held accountable for it. Because the amount of times we've come across shoddy work where people have gone in and sold a pen test to a customer, but it's actually been a Nessus scan. That they've gone and given advice to a customer on something and they don't have the credentials to back it up just because I'm an expert. Trust me. We have to go beyond that now. And we're going to have to embrace compliance. I know we hate the words compliance and regulations and stuff, but it's happening. We already have GDPR, and that has seen significant improvements in cybersecurity. We've seen in BH Consulting, we've seen a huge drive in people trying to improve their security because of GDPR. Before GDPR, oh yeah, we take data protection seriously, don't worry about it, we're secure. Now they're going, with GDPR, can you make sure we're secure? Can you give us assurances we are? The Network Information Security Directive from the EU, which came into effect last year as well, focuses on critical network infrastructure, which includes banks, telcos, etc. That's improving security. And if you work in those industries, you have to work against that directive as well. The EU Cybersecurity Act came into effect this summer. That is going to start improving security. So you can see these regulations coming in. And one of the key things which I'm interested to see how it's going to work is the EU Cybersecurity Act has a certification scheme in it. Today, if I want to sell an IP-based CCTV camera to you, I can go to China, I can get somebody to make the device. I have to make sure the electrical components and the physical components of that device meet certain safety standards, that when you plug it in, it doesn't blow up or go on fire. The software I put on it, though, there is no standards on that. That is changing with the Cybersecurity Act. You will have to certify software to be secure, to be able to sell it. That is going to be a big game changer in our industry because it's going to force vendors to take responsibility for security. The other thing that's going to be a big driver is insurance. I've already seen one insurance company say, we will reduce your premium if you're using any of these following products. So the insurance companies are going to be getting data. They've spent centuries analyzing risk. They're going to bring that discipline to cybersecurity. We're going to see a huge change in that. So we need to embrace that as well. And the business people are demanding better security now. 15 years ago when I was at BH Consulting, I was talking to IT people. Now we're talking to the boards. They're the ones who are bringing us in. They're the ones who care about cybersecurity. So we still need to have that passion. We still need to fight today for a better tomorrow, because with this dependency on cybersecurity and the dependency on the internet, there's a lot of other people starting to get interested in this field, not just us. And they're not geeks. These are people who have political motivations, business motivations, and they have certain things they want to get done. So we don't and shouldn't stand alone. We need to work together. We need to work outside our industry and outside our community with other industries to fix a lot of the problems as well. We need to make sure we embrace the business side of things and talk to business to see what they need to get done. We need to ensure we continue hacking stuff to find where the weaknesses are so we can improve the systems that we rely on. We have a very vital role in that, is making sure the stuff people rely on, be they their autonomous cars, be that their medical equipment in a hospital, be that the nuclear plant that is giving off power, that those systems are secure. We have a responsibility to make sure that keeps happening. At the same time, we need to make sure that technology is not abused. So mass surveillance, we need to keep ourselves focused on that and avoid that happening. Likewise, encryption backdoors, we need to educate people why encryption backdoors don't work. And we can't have this one side of the argument going, but somebody think of the children, we need to have backdoors and encryption so we can catch the bad guys. And on our side going, you can't break encryption, don't be ridiculous. We need to meet in the middle, because we need to educate people on that side as to why you can't backdoor encryption. That's mathematically impossible. It's like saying, well, crime happens at night time, so therefore let's stop the sun going down. And we need, as I said, software vendors to take great responsibility. Many people here have an Apple Mac laptop, a Windows laptop. How many of you own the operating system on on those devices? No, you don't. You are leasing, you're licensing the operating system. You don't own it. And that's a nice legal trick by the vendors to get out of any liability they have on selling you a product. Because you don't own it, they don't have to fix the problems in it. So we need to force the vendors to take better responsibility on securing the systems and devices they sell us. These things take time. We won't be fixing these things tonight because, well, obviously the after party is going to happen, but tomorrow night even. But it's going to take us a while. But we need to work together and we need to embrace each other and all the different backgrounds people have so that we can make the world a better and more secure place for everybody else as well. It is our future is what we need, and it's what we're going to need, especially people my age. We need to make sure that the mess we've created on the internet, because we didn't create a secure internet, we didn't do pretty good with the climate either. So listen, guys, please, we need to work together better so that we can fix everything as well. So with that, thank you very much.